and welcome to Logan's Prop Shop, and today we are finishing this Red Hood Ronin Helmet that I got from 3D Zone Creations on Etsy. I started off by melting the edges with a soldering iron and added material where needed. And then use some 100 grit sandpaper on my orbital sander. Be careful not to round over the edges. I also hand sand in the areas that the sander couldn't really get. I then used some 220 grit sandpaper to smooth it over. And then you're going to want to hand sand the more detailed areas. You're going to want to hand sand these areas with 100 grit sandpaper like we did for the main part. Making sure to use the sandpaper really good on those edges. And then go over the same areas with 220 grit sandpaper. Once that was done, we rinsed off our helmet and gave it some Color filler primer, 2 coats. And then sanded with some 220 grit sandpaper on the orbital sander. Sanded with 220 grit sandpaper as well. And then we rinse off our helmet again to give it another coat of filler primer. I use an old hacksaw and a needle file to add a little bit of some weathering there on the forehead and the brow, a little bit there, and a little on the cheek and the chin. Now we're going to put on a glove and use some Bondo in some of these areas right here. Sand with 220 grit sandpaper. Then I rinsed the helmet again and then gave it 2 coats of this black sandable primer. couple more coats of the same primer. Set, we're going to wet sand it with some 400 grit sandpaper, then 600, and then 1200. And then after we have rinsed off our helmet again, we're going to give it 2 coats of Rust-Oleum gloss black paint. Also came with mesh cheek panels, and now we're going to spray that with gloss black paint and then dust it with some Rust-Oleum flat antique nickel. Take some graphite powder and rub it on these pieces to give it a more metallic sheen. Once that's done, we're going to give it a coat of gloss clear coat. I then cut 4 strips of 1-inch elastic and then use Bob Smith super glue to glue them into the corners as shown. I only ended up using the top 2 because the bottom 2 wouldn't let me put the helmet on. Then we're going to mask off some areas of the helmet to get it ready for some dusting of flat antique nickel. And then rub some graphite powder on top of that. I spray it with some gloss clear coat. And put a little bit of gold. A little bit of red. And then I taped around the areas I was going to paint black. With a paintbrush in these areas later. I also used a silver paint pen on some of these edges and corners to give it a chipped paint effect, and also on the rivets. I used some Testor's silver for these areas because I wasn't quite happy with the finish. Then I took some watered down black paint and brushed it on the red and silver areas, and then dabbed and wiped it with a paper towel to give it a more dirty look. I also used that airbrush to put some black on the scars and some of the creases for a more worn effect. And use a silver paint pen for the scars. Now that our helmet's looking great, we're going to protect this with a semi-gloss clear coat. And a matte clear coat for the black. And then use a little bit of hot glue on them cheek panels, and then this helmet is complete. This was a fun one to do, and there are a lot more on the way. I'm Logan of Logan's Prop Shop, signing out.